70 Christians were just beheaded and left in a church in the Congo. Now, I know a lot of Americans are probably watching this and thinking, hey, this is just in Africa, it's no big deal, but it's important to watch how these terrorists attack Christians in other countries so that we can be prepared for it when it comes over here. Now, most importantly, if you are in the Congo and you're watching this, I always talk about tips to protect yourself from violent incidents like this. So I'm going to break down the incident with as little information as we have about it right now. I'm going to talk about the group that attacked them. And then most importantly, we're going to give you tips to tell you how to stay safe, and we're going to give you a plan of action. So for Africans that are watching this, certainly you are the most persecuted Christians in the world right now. Use this to protect yourself. For Americans and others in Western nations that are watching this, although I don't think that ISIS or Al Qaeda or any of these other groups can pull off something quite like this in the United States, we certainly should be studying this. And I'm going to give you the tips that I give for the people in Africa. You most certainly can use those tips here in the United States because they're good things that everybody should be practicing anyways. And it is things that I practice here at home. All right, let's get into what exactly happened. This happened in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where there's a confluence of groups that are vying for control and influence in that area. This event unfolded when suspected militants from the Allied Democratic Forces, or ADF, raided a village and went into a few houses and captured 70 believers and then took them to a Christian church and then beheaded all 70 of them. Now again, this is part of an ongoing wave of violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo, or the DRC, and it's led to significant displacement and destruction of property and disruption of community life. And we see a lot of Christians that are on the run right now in that area. Now I want to talk a little bit about ADF, the Allied Democratic Forces, because it's been reported that it was ISIS that did this attack, and there's a little bit more to it than that. Now, there has been some descriptions that ADF has ties or affiliations to the Islamic State, but that may not be totally true either. It's pretty unclear right now. So initially they were formed in the 1990s, and the ADF has its roots in Uganda, which I know a lot of Christians are going to Uganda right now. Please be careful when you go over there. They also, of course, are in the DRC. Now, over the years, it's evolved into a brutal militant group engaging in acts of terror, primarily against Christian communities. Now, what's their ideology? Now, although they have been linked with jihadist groups, the ADF's motivations are mainly rooted in regional grievances and a desire to impose its extremist agenda. Now, their connections to those larger jihadist networks have fluctuated somewhat, and it leads some sources to say that there has been a misattribution of its affiliation to ISIS. So basically, we don't know what their ties are to ISIS right now. It's too early to say that, yes, it is ISIS. Now, let's talk about the tactics that ADF uses. Now, the group typically uses guerrilla warfare, surprise attacks on villages like they did here, and hostage taking. Now, their brutality has been consistent over the years, contributing to their notoriety in the region. Now, today we're talking about ADF. It's important to note in the Democratic Republic of Congo that in the DRC, there are several militant groups, including remnants of older factions and other extremist groups that are all vying for control of the DRC. Now, this regional instability has allowed all of these groups to thrive. Now, let's talk about some practical safety tips for communities that are under threat of groups like ISIS, Al Qaeda, the group that we were just talking about in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I know you guys in Nigeria are just getting hammered right now as well. Let's talk about the tips that you could use to protect yourselves. Now, the first thing is to develop an emergency plan. Even if you're in a Western country watching this right now, you should have a plan. I have a plan. I actually have multiple plans. I have contingencies upon contingencies. You should too. Now, you want to work with trusted community members to establish clear practical escape routes and safe meeting points, and identify multiple exit strategies from your home, your church, and gathering locations in case there's an attack that's imminent. Now, churches are getting attacked pretty regularly in Nigeria, and one of the things that I have mentioned is that you should post guards at your church front door, and then farther out, it's called an observation post or a listening post, an OPLP. You put one of those out even further. This is an old military tactic that we've been using for centuries. And if they see something, the observation post sees somebody coming that is bad, they alert the person at the front door, who alerts the people inside, and then you go through your planned escape route. I have an escape route from my church. I have an escape route from my home. I have multiple escape routes, and I have plans on where I can go and link up somewhere else. You should think about those right now. You want to strengthen your local coordination. Now, from neighborhood or church safety networks that share real-time information, now you should have some kind of a safety network that you share real-time information. I do in my local area. We're on a couple of different secure networks that we can talk on, that we can communicate information to each other about current events and what's going on right now that we should be concerned about. I have one at the national level. I have one at the international level. I have contacts all around the world that we talk to that we can keep up to date. I do not have a contact on the ground in Africa. If you are in Nigeria, DRC, any one of those places, hit me up, send me an email. You can contact me. I would love to set up a secure way to contact and talk to you. But you want to have that local coordination so you can share information. Now, down in the DRC, you may not have cell phones available to you or some of these other things. It's just talking to people and getting that information about where recent attacks have been, weak points in the village, anything like that, so you can share information. You want to secure your home and any gathering that you have, which would include church. So you want to reinforce your doors and windows where you can, and consider modifying your meeting place so that only essential smaller groups gather. There is a lot of people in the comments here that are Westerners that talk constantly about house churches. I see what you're talking about, that as long as you're meeting and spreading the word, that is awesome. But I want you to make sure you take care of yourself too. Go ahead and meet in those smaller groups and fortify doors to make it harder for people to get in. My home here, if you're going to try to attack me in my house, good luck trying to get in. By the time you finally get in, I will be there ready for you, or I've already escaped and I've come in back behind you, so just turn around. You want to get a go bag. If you're in the DRC or you're in Canada, it doesn't matter. You should have some kind of a go bag. What I have in mind is everything I need to live for 3 days. So I have water, non-perishable food, first aid supplies, copies of important documents that I might need, and a charged mobile phone with extra batteries. And this should be ready at all times so that you can have rapid evacuation if you need to. I am going to set up a prepper channel. Stay tuned for that. I am going to probably do that in the next couple weeks, I hope. And I will do things like show you my go bag and show you what's inside of there so you get an idea of how I'm doing things, and I'd love to hear what you do. You want to limit your predictable routes. I've been doing this as a cop. We're taught limit your route. Don't take the same route every time. I was taught that in the Army as well. If you have a predictable route, then they're going to come get you because they know where you're going to be. So whether you're in the DRC or New Zealand, Australia, America, wherever, always take different routes because you just never know. You want to avoid patterns that allow any kind of a militant or anybody that doesn't like you to predict movements or identify any kind of a vulnerable gathering that you're headed to. If I was in the DRC right now, I 100% would not be meeting in my physical church. I would be meeting in house churches, so that way we can limit that, and I would change that by day a week, and I would change that as much as I can, because they are coming for the Christians, and I want to make sure you survive so you can spread the word. You want to utilize trusted communication methods. Now, you want to establish code or simple phrases among your community members to signal an emergency without alerting potential attackers. So you would know best what would work, whether it's just a simple code word and you pass it along and now everybody can be ready for it. But you want to make sure everyone knows whom to contact if that alarm is raised. You want to have meeting points. We call them rally points. So outside of your village, if something happens, you can all meet in a certain area and establish several of those so you can all meet up later. You are better off if you are in groups. Now, if you're a Westerner, for trusted communications, you should be using the Signal app. Go download it right now and download the Signal app. And all of your messaging, phone calls, and everything should be done from that. Recently, I had 7 people from church in a text messaging group, and we were talking about training and what we were going to do next. And I stopped and I'm like, I don't feel comfortable transmitting out in the open. I'd like to move to Signal. It's encrypted. It's encrypted end to end. Nobody in the middle can capture it. The telecoms have been compromised. We know that. The FBI has told us that. And just common sense, I've been using it to avoid the FBI, but the FBI apparently is worried about China and others that are already in the telecoms. You should be using stuff like that. You want to designate safe houses or safe zones. I have safe homes that I can go to if necessary in multiple states around America. If you're in the Congo, you should have safe homes in other villages that you can go to, or even a safe home within your village that when they come looking for people, they can't find you. Those safe houses are just a place of refuge that you can go hide out and be ready. You want to maintain a low profile. Things are heightened like they are in the Congo. You want to be as low profile as possible, which means you only move during certain times and when you need to, and you just try to hide out and don't bring attention to yourself so that hopefully the militants avoid you. You want to practice calm and decisive action. Now look, one of the biggest things, like a lot of these times I see news stories of ISIS or other jihadists grab Christians up. They know they're going to die, but they don't put up a fight. Self-defense isn't a sin. Go on the offense, take your time, take a deep breath, and figure out how you're going to get out of the situation you're in. And if you have to harm one of them to do that, then so be it, right? It is not a sin for you to defend yourself. In Luke 22:36, Jesus told them to go sell your cloak and buy a sword. Not only did they say they had a sword, but they had two, and Jesus said, that's enough, meaning I said buy a sword, but you have two? That's enough. Let's go. Self-defense isn't a sin. I've written about this before. I need you to realize that if you've been captured, or you're about to be captured, you need to go on the offense and impose your will upon the enemy so that you can survive another day and spread the gospel. All right, my friends, this is what I want you to do when you leave here. For the Westerners, I want you to pray for the safety of everybody in the DRC and surrounding countries. Christians are these Christians in these countries are the most persecuted Christians in the world right now, more than in the Middle East. We need to pray their safety and pray that they are able to avoid these militants so they can live another day. For the Westerners, I just want you to pray for your own safety as well. The people that are attacking the people in the DRC, they are here in the United States as well. They are in Canada, they are in Europe, all the places that watch this. They're in your country, and they are one day going to unleash everything upon us, and it'll be an October 7th style attack like they did to Israel, but here, and we need to be prepared for that. After you get done praying for everybody's safety and for your preparedness, I want you to remember your ABCs. Always be caring.